Yes, we need regulation. I think you can see we definitely need regulation. Even in the crypto economy, quite anarchic. I think people are getting to a point that we, especially once speaking with, let's say, final customers, especially with people non-informed, especially with people, once we start centralizing things, I think the crypto community also is getting that. And the fintech community, we also saw Wirecard, massive bank as a service, so super infrastructural for many fintechs, very famous fintechs actually, also entering in a huge scandal of corruption. So I think this is nothing new, right? We also have many banks all around the world. Here in Portugal, are still paying a couple of them. And I think the human nature, despite it's a fintech, a crypto company, a bank, an insurer, it's always the same. So definitely we need regulation. That's no doubts about that. But the problem, it's, and this is not something asked by the Portuguese tourism, no, this is just a wave from Nazaré. The truth is then regulators started bringing, let's say, a tsunami of regulation, and that's also sometimes difficult to go further. It's difficult to surpass. It's difficult to keep doing business in an efficient way with such a quantity of regulation, with the complexity of the regulation, with the cost to implement the regulation, and definitely just a cost center, not a profit generation center. And if you think of anything, any business model you want to implement, you always have to think of anti-money laundering, KYC, you got all the identity issues, making sure that you are really interacting with the person you say you are interacting with. All fraud matters, despite if it is in insurance, that of course it's increasing the price, or in payments, or in correspondent banking. We are also dealing nowadays with a huge wave of taxonomy for the ESG, so for all environmental, sustainable, and social and governance. That it's definitely also picking lots of attention now and needing to be implemented several processes, reportings, attention in the end. And of course, licenses. So if you have a very, very innovative business model, in the end, if you are doing certain types of activities, you are definitely being, or you need a license to be in the financial sector. And of course, in the end, despite of all the regulations, the most important thing is around ethics. And any business model that you think, the most disruptive business model, very good user experience, user interface, you have to think of what is the journey. Is it legal or it's not? A neobank, look at the problems, Revolut, number 26, all those neobanks are having right now, even with geographies where the regulators stopped them to opening accounts and froze new account openings, etc. So definitely paying attention to the regulator, even if you are using a bank as a service, even if you are trying to put in a third party the regulatory side, it's definitely important. Embedded finance, putting your journey inside another player, rather if it's a credit journey, rather if it is an insurance journey, definitely, and it's something I'm going to speak today about, like, okay, but in the end, okay, I came here using a Cultra, so a shared scooter, and I got an insurance, so someone sold me the insurance there. What is the rule? Who is selling? Who is, in the end, the entity that it's the broker and the licensed broker? So open banking, all the costs this add, and what is exactly the value we are extracting from that? We're going to also speak today about use of data and ethical use of data. Wealth transfer. So for all the, we are all facing like this necessity, not just because of inflation, but new generation picking the wealth of the previous generation, and the journey, the digital first generation starting to also invest. So all the MiFID, all the legislation applicable for this factor, it's also applied here. Crypto, I don't have to speak a little about that because I think the first image speaks a lot specifically in the brokers, specifically in people that help you interact it between fiat and crypto, definitely being more and more regulated with all the AML5, with all the MiCA regulation coming to be enforced. And of course, nowadays, I think the most spoken subject these days, it's about large language models, so ChatGPT and the other ones that we see and we observe and we use. I think it's definitely impressive the capacity they had to acquire attention, but in the end, regulation, in the end, GDPR, in the end, the way you use data and rights, IP, so there's many things that are being questioned these days because of this. So I think we live in a very interesting environment. But the good thing, if you look at the center of the image, we got something special. So this is an image of a surfer using a jet ski. I think, and building on top of the metaphor that I just constructing, banks, insurance companies are kind of this surfer. And instead of trying to surf this wave alone, they can use the jet ski, which are the RegTechs. So that's definitely the idea of this conference today, bringing the RegTechs, bringing the people creating technology to enable you creating solutions, cheaper solutions, like reducing the cost centers, making easier to implement your business model in a compliant and profitable way. RegTech, it's brought by Portugal Fintech, a non-profit association that I'm honored to be part of, which got 4 building blocks of work. So the vision, or let's say the 4 building blocks, it's relation. And so basically Portugal Fintech, it's fintech-centric, but then everything happens from the perspective of the fintech, from the perspective of the startup, and the 4 building blocks are relation with incumbents, so with mature players, relation with regulators, relation with talent, and relation with investment, capital. So the things that we analyzed and we think could help the fintech ecosystem to foster and the RegTech ecosystem inside the fintech ecosystem. Nowadays, the most visible projects, I think it's this building that we are almost, actually this floor, it's the first the event here, so welcome. It's the Fintech House, a community of more than 80 startups that live in this building. There's a second and very important initiative that it's called the Fintech Solution. So we're going to see today the team of the Fintech Solutions also presenting, but basically the idea is bridging the incumbents and the startups and making valuable business models and business cases together and hopefully in full and large production together. Of course, we got the Portugal FinTech report that you got a couple of samples around, which tries to put in place in one single document all the documentation, all the information about our landscape, about our ecosystem. And a couple of years ago, we had the honor to kickstart with the regulators, the Portugal FinLab. It's also another bridge to the fintechs and the RegTechs to get closer to the regulator. So without further ado, let's get to know the RegTechs, which I think it's the main reason why you come here. But again, use the jet ski because they will make your company much more profitable. Thanks a lot.